Hello, welcome everybody. This is Jeremy Crow, and tonight we're going to be doing an Ask Me Anything live stream. So, if you are new to this channel, I am a Luciferian. I have been studying the occult for over 30 years, seriously studying, not just dabbling, but I dedicated study to the occult for over 30 years now. And for over 25 years, I have considered myself a Luciferian. So if you have any questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to put them in the chat and I will do my best to address all of your questions. Seamus, you got the first message. Congratulations. And there is a new feature, I believe, on there is a new feature on YouTube live streams called Top Fans, and if you leave comments in the chat, the live chat, it will register that, and there'll be like a leaderboard for that. I don't know if you find that fun or not, but if so, you might get in the top 3. Nocturnal Frequency Radio, evening, Jeremy. Welcome, Steve. Everybody go to the Nocturnal Frequency Radio channel and subscribe. They are very cool. Steve does a lot of live streams, and sometimes he has a co-host who is also very cool. I've been on their channel for a few times. And one of the things that I like to do on these live streams is to start off with a divination, which I like. The thing I've been doing lately especially has been a bibliomancy using the Tao Te Ching. And so I'll just randomly go through and stop on a chapter, and then I'll read that chapter and see what you have to think. So let's do that now. Yeah, it would be great to be back on your channel again soon. Chapter 30. The Emperor's advisors will never recommend violence if they know what the Tao is. If you use the strategy of warfare, it can only result in revenge. After troops have trampled by, only weeds and nettles grow in the broken ground. There can be no harvest, and everyone is left starving. If you need to take action, only do what is necessary. Never abuse your power. And if you're successful, don't be smug. If you are a success, don't trumpet it. If you think you've won, never overdo it. Those who use force soon end up without it. And this is not the way. And if you do not follow the way, you will die. Pretty dramatic ending there. Does that resonate with anybody? Beyond Zebra said, howdy, Jeremy. Howdy back. So, something I'm looking at here, I've got a set of dice of different colors. Sometimes I like to use these for divination. Does anybody have any form of divination that they like to do that is a little unique or not very common? One of the things that I like to do a lot is tarot, and I particularly like this, the Hermetic Tarot. It is inspired by the Golden Dawn, and it's got some really evocative images on it. It's all black and white line drawings and such. And I also have a copy of the Crowley Thoth deck, which I've had for quite a long time as well, and I like to use that one as well a lot. Now, I have my own internal tarot deck that I have created that I call the New Luciferian Era Tarot. And this is a tarot that I've developed over, well, when I started doing occultism seriously about 30 years ago, I took up the serious practice of the tarot at that time as well, and not just divination, but using the tarot in other forms of esoteric practice, such as meditation, tarot magic, scrying into the astral, dream incubation, all sorts of things I've used the tarot for. And Cold Heart says, how well is your primordial energy magic? Well, I kind of feel like all magic draws upon the primordial energy. And especially if you do alchemy, a lot of the time you break something down first and it brings it back to kind of a primordial state. And then you separate out each of the principal elements that make up that primordial soup. Then you heal and refine each one individually and then recombine them. And when they integrate back together in after having been healed and refined, then it creates the quintessence or the fifth element. And the practice that I do mostly, the occult system that I've developed over the course of about 30 years or so, is what I call Luciferian alchemy. And actually, if you're interested in learning about that, you can join the Novus Ordo Luciferi. That is the vehicle through which I teach the occult system of Luciferian alchemy. And if you're interested in that, there is a link in the description to the Patreon, and that's how most people join. And it's just $5 a month, and you get access to all of the writings, the teachings, the practices, as well as a back catalog of recorded video lessons that I've given to members and that we've recorded. And I think must be around 50 hours worth of video lessons in the archive now that you get access to if you join. And after this live stream tonight, there will be a private Novus Ordo Luciferi members meeting, and you can unlock the link to that meeting by joining the Patreon. So if you are already a member, then you can go to the Patreon, or you can go to the private Discord server for members. And the link to the meeting for after this live stream will be in both of those places. If you haven't joined yet, you can join the Patreon, and it'll unlock that most recent post on the Patreon right now, and that'll get you access to the meeting tonight. Let's see here. Beyond Zebra said, I'm reminded of that entity you saw. You are going to die, die, die. Yeah. I mentioned that a couple times. It was a very intense experience that I had with an entity that I believe may have been Hecate, or is it Hecate? I think it's Hecate, right? But it was a witch-like character, and she kind of pulled me into this liminal space between the waking and the dreaming experience, and confronted me with my own death, with my own mortality. And I just acknowledged it. I just said, yeah, I know. But I managed to hold it together. And and then she seemed to be satisfied that I was like, I know. And and then kind of receded back into the shadow, and then I felt myself gradually leaving that liminal space. And it was very impactful. It was a very intense experience. And that was when I was a teenager, actually, or I was 19 or 20. B. Dot says, I use runes most of the time. Yeah, I did some studying of the runes at one point, and I had memorized a set. And then I realized that it wasn't the particular form of runes that are most common in the Western esoteric tradition, and that kind of was a bit frustrating. But also, um, I found it fascinating, and I thought that they were quite powerful and valuable. But I didn't really connect with it, you know. So I kind of just I didn't continue studying the runes, but yeah, if it connects with you, then absolutely, it's a very powerful and beautiful system. It's just not for me. One thing that I did study though that is kind of similar in some ways is the Ogham alphabet, and that is Celtic in origin, and each one of the characters is associated with a tree. Now, I'd like to, if I had time, I'd like to spend more time studying and practicing that. It's pretty cool. I think all of them are a line which has little notches on either side. Um, that determine what it is. So it's all lines with notches in them, or lines across the main line. So it can be done using a knife on a piece of wood, like even a branch, and you can. That's a really neat thing about it in my mind, and it's like tree magic in a sense, and you can use it for divination. You can use it for practical magic. It's very versatile, and I was thinking of some other ways that it could be utilized as well that are pretty neat. But I definitely connect more with Ogham than I do with runes personally. It may be because I have some Celtic heritage. My main uh, my main heritage is Native American. In Canada, we call it First Nation, and specifically Ojibwe, although I do also have some Mi'kmaq in me, Micmac. And the other side of my heritage is Scottish, which is one of the Celtic based nationalities, I suppose you could say, or ethnicities. So maybe it has something to do with my Celtic heritage that I find the Ogham, that I resonate with it. But who knows? I am also into a lot of things that I have no heritage connected to as well, like the Babylonian mythology and Sumerian before that. I find fascinating, and I really resonate with a lot of that material. So it might be just coincidence that I like Ogham, but like I said, I haven't studied it nearly as much as I'd like to. Scotty Hamilton said, I take the auspices, divination from patterns of movement of wild birds. Oh, yeah, it's a form of augury, I believe that's called. And yeah, my native grandmother on my father's side, she was very interested in that, especially crows, which is our family name, which actually was originally Undeg, or more accurately, Ndeg. And that's a word in the Ojibwe language that means crow. And if she saw a crow, if she saw one, it usually meant something bad. But if another person also saw it, it kind of was like seeing multiple birds. At least that was the way that she interpreted it. So if she saw just a single crow, she'd be like, "Hey, look, there's a crow." And I didn't realize at first why she was doing that, but ultimately it was a way of warding off the bad omen and turning it into a good omen. And so, yeah, my grandmother, she practices a form of augury in by noticing when she saw crows or a crow, and she had a way of warding off the bad omen if she saw a single crow, unless she saw it by herself, right? So then she didn't have that option available to her. B. Dot said that sounds interesting. I assume you're talking about the OM alphabet. Yeah. One of the authors that has written some stuff about the OM would be John Michael Greer. And I found that a lot of his earlier works were quite good. Now, I've heard some controversy about him in recent years, and so I'm not sure how much I want to recommend his material, but I haven't read his newer stuff anyways. But the Druid Magic Handbook, I believe it is, that is a book that talks about utilizing the OM, and I think that might have been my first introduction to the OM. So that's where I initially encountered it, and then I looked up other information about it too after that. But I did find that book of his was quite good, the Druid Magic Handbook. It's not super historically accurate. There aren't really very many records at all about what the original ancient Druids did, but this book is more about modern Druidic Reconstructionism, which understanding that from that lens, it was a good book. B. Dot said, I'm not native at all, but my surname came about because of doves. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Now, you don't have to have a direct connection to the bird species in particular, but it can make it extra special to you, I suppose, if you have that connection. I certainly feel a stronger connection with crows because that's my family. But and I got a crow on my water bottle here. Stay hydrated, folks. It's hot out there, and it's not always easy to stay hydrated. If you drink throughout the day, it's better than just trying to drink all at once. Yeah. So if you haven't drank anything for a little while, drink up and stay hydrated. Brenda says, Corinthians, the last enemy to be destroyed is death. I am Judas Iscariot, Nikola Tesla in the flesh, Lucifer, light bearer, Atlantis. It's just a bunch of words. I guess you're just putting a bunch of keywords in there. Interesting. Okay. Well, I like Nikola Tesla. I was a big fan of Nikola Tesla before Elon Musk kind of got his name in there. And the thing is, the company Tesla has nothing to do with Elon Musk, or sorry, with Nikola Tesla's inventions. Nikola Tesla came up with an AC, like an alternating current motor, and he came up with he was a big proponent of alternating current and such. Teslas run on batteries, which is direct current, which was something that Tesla thought was inefficient. And so I don't know why he's kind of borrowing the fame of Tesla didn't really have a lot of fame until more recently, but Nikola Tesla, certainly some really interesting stuff there. And personally, I spent 25 years in the industry of wireless telecommunications. And so I'm very familiar with that sort of thing. Tesla did a lot of work in transmitting electricity, transmitting signals through the air, that sort of thing. Beyond Zebra said, didn't he use the alternating current to electrocute an elephant in public? No, he did not. That was Edison, who was trying to discredit Tesla and trying to discredit alternating current because he didn't hold any patents in alternating current, and he wanted to promote his own electrical systems, which were DC or direct current based. And so he went on a propaganda campaign where he was electrocuting animals he would travel around electrocuting animals to death and trying to tell people about the dangers of alternating current by doing this. But it kind of backfired because, people saw through it and they're like, well, why are you being so cruel to these animals and killing them? Like, just tell us if that's what if you really wanted to tell us about that. And people saw through it. But yeah, it was Edison. I believe it was. It was a competitor to Nikola Tesla, and at any rate, it wasn't Tesla doing that. He loved animals. Tesla loved animals. He actually had I believe it was a pigeon that he was basically in love with. He had this pigeon that he never married, but he had this pigeon that he loved dearly. And he was Tesla was an animal lover. He wouldn't do that. Let's see here. Okay. Brenda is leaving poetic messages here. So I'm not going to read them, but because it's not really anything I can respond to properly. Let's see here. I mean, you have to show people that something they cannot see does exist. But yeah, that was Edison. So what are your thoughts on Leela Wendell and her system? I don't know who that is. I'm not familiar with Leela Wendell. What type of system is that she developed? Is it electrical or is it esoteric? I'm not sure. There was something that I thought about earlier that I was gonna mention. Notice there's a bunch of retracted messages here. I wonder what that was about. Oh yeah, divination from a type of bird augury where the people would look or use the movement of birds or the number of birds. Sometimes depending on the species of bird, that would indicate something. There's other forms of augury that you can do too, and that simple one that people just naturally do, and they don't even really think of it as a form of augury or divination, and that is cloud divination or cloud augury, where augury is basically using any kind of natural phenomenon, such as movement of wild animals, or anything like that. So cloud augury is basically looking at clouds and seeing shapes in the clouds and interpreting that. Now, people often do this for fun, although they don't usually take that next step of actually interpreting what they see in the clouds. But that's a type of augury there, and people have been practicing it without even realizing it. Just be like, oh, that cloud really looks like a hot dog with mustard on it, or whatever, right? Looks like Abraham Lincoln, or whatever, a car. People see things in the clouds, but if you take it the next step where you actually interpret it, then that would be cloud augury. And it's very similar to tea leaf reading. So I'm not sure if anybody's ever tried tea leaf reading, or you can do coffee ground readings where you have loose leaf tea, or you can make coffee and allow the grounds to be in the cup. You drink as much of the liquid, you drink it, and then at the end you try and drink all as much of the liquid as you can without it being gross. Sometimes it gets really intense at the end if there's loose leaf or coffee grounds. And then you flip it upside down, the cup, onto a saucer or saucer. You turn it 3 times clockwise while thinking about your question. And then you leave it for several minutes. And then you come back to it, flip it up, and look inside the cup. And you do basically the same thing as you do when you look at the clouds, is you see different, it'll have formed a pattern, and you try and see what you can see in it. And then you interpret that. Now, there are more elaborate forms of it where you can determine timelines. If you say, well, how far is it from the handle of the mug or teacup, and that sort of thing. You can divide it up, but the basic way of doing it, and the most common way, is just simply to look around at the inside of the cup and all the different areas that have created patterns in the tea leaves or the coffee grounds. You can do it with as well. And also, don't just look at the coffee grounds or the tea leaves and the patterns that they make, but look at the empty space or the white space and see if those form patterns as well. So that's another thing that people don't necessarily think about when they're just starting practicing that. But that is another interesting form of divination that can be. And actually, my father taught me that when I was a little kid, before I became a serious occultist, just when I was just growing up. I, encountered some various different forms of divination and some superstitions and some folklore from native culture and that sort of thing. As well as just, I'm not sure where my dad picked up some of these things, but yeah, he taught me how to do tea leaf reading when I was quite young. And I've taught my own son, and he's still quite young, and it's fun. Let's see here. Oh, Leela Wendell has a necromancy system, and B. Dot said they're surprised I don't know who that is. Yeah, I've never encountered that. So I can't give my opinion on that, but I'll look it up. Let me type it out here, just so that I can look it up after the fact. Because it sounds interesting. I'm interested in that subject, necromancy and related. So, for example, one of the things that I'm quite interested in is Santa Muerte, and that's something that I'd like to learn more about. It's something that I've done some research into, and I've kind of dipped my toes into it a little bit, but it's something that I'd like to learn more about. Let's see, Wendell. Yeah, okay, cool. I will look into that for sure. Thanks for the recommendation, B. Dot. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we just have some more poetry from Brenda. And yeah, what does anybody have any other questions? Something that I am heavily into is lucid dreaming. A lot of people have said to me that when they think of me, they think of lucid dreaming even more so than they think of Luciferianism. So lucid dreaming is something that I've been doing since I was a child as well, since before I became a serious occultist. I was already doing lucid dreaming as well. So, I've had a lot of experience in a lot of esoteric things before I even took on the serious study of occultism about 30 years ago or so. When I was 17, I got heavily into the occult and have been continued ever since, and I'm currently 47. Now, this is an interesting book. It's quite obscure, actually, but it didn't come out that long ago. And this is The Backward Path by Howler Dalroth. And the subtitle of this is Lovecraftian Dreaming and the Secret Lore of the Ocean. And it is a system of occultism that is taught within the Esoteric Order of Dagon, which there's two Esoteric Order of Dagons out there. One of them is heavily influenced by Thelema, and the other one is more, attempts to be more pure Lovecraftian, and they refer to the work that they do as Sothothian, I believe, which was, I believe, Lovecraft's preferred term for that sort of thing, although he officially denied believing in the occult. Most of Lovecraft's published works are actually heavily inspired by his dream life. He had a very rich and intense dream life, and it inspired most of his written works. And so in the Esoteric Order of Dagon, that is not Thelemic, they consider the works of Lovecraft to be a sort of elaborated dream journal of H.P. Lovecraft. And they believe that he was tapping into something, which I also, I feel like definitely he was tapping into something, And so this is Howler Dalroth is the most recent head of that Esoteric Order of Dagon before the current one. So he stepped down from active leadership, and another leader took over the order. And this was a book that he published while he was still the head of the Esoteric Order of Dagon. And it is, what do we have here? It's about 170 pages, but it also includes a system of numerology and cartomancy that is unique to the Esoteric Order of Dagon that he helped develop. He mainly received it through dreams, a series of dreams, and then elaborated upon it, and also got confirmation and a further elaboration from at least one or two other members helped him flesh it out a bit. And so it not only talks about this system of lucid dreaming, which is some of the more advanced lucid dreaming practices that I've encountered in the Western esoteric community, at least. If you go to the East, you can find some really advanced stuff in Tibetan Buddhism. But in Western stuff, the Esoteric Order of Dagon, they really dive into lucid dreaming heavily. Pardon the pun, dive in. But this material that Howler wrote in this book talks about how members of the Esoteric Order of Dagon will utilize lucid dreaming to kind of unlock atavistic aspects of their own soul and travel backwards to a more primordial state, in a sense, symbolically, and through dream work and through lucid dreaming in particular, and astral projection, that sort of thing. and it involves shape shifting and traveling to other dream realms and that sort of thing. It's been pretty cool reading this material. And I actually joined the Esoteric Order of Dagon at one point, and I'm technically a lifetime member, but I've been inactive because I just don't have time to do it. But it's the only other group that I find interesting. It's a very small group, but I don't have time for it, unfortunately. I've been devoting all my time to the Novus Ordo Luciferi, and we are going to have a meeting, the Novus Ordo Luciferi, after this live stream. Again, if you haven't joined and you want to jump in on that, you can. There's a link in this description to the Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and it'll get you access to that meeting tonight, as well as going forward, as well as a back catalog of video lessons that I've taught to the members, and we've recorded, and then they get added to the archive. I think we have about 50 hours worth of material from lucid dreaming is one of them. There's some very advanced teachings in that. I believe it's about a 6-hour course. Originally it was given as a 4-week course to members, and but you can watch it as at your own pace at this point. And there's also material on the tarot, the new Luciferian era calendar, all sorts of things. That I did a recent one on self-hypnosis and entering trance state and utilizing that to increase the strength of autosuggestion, such as giving yourself autosuggestion before sleep to improve your lucid dreaming. So it all kind of ties together. There is a lot of energy work type practices. There are rituals, that sort of thing. So if you're interested in any of that and have been enjoying what I've been doing here on this video as well as my other videos, then I highly recommend you check out the Novus Ordo Luciferi. Wraith636 says, "Greetings. I've been listening in the background. I'm a student of occultism and been studying the left-hand path for about 2 years. Question, how many deities can I work with at once? I've asked because I've been studying Baphomet and Lilith. Is it possible to work with both?" Yes, it is, although time is a limiting factor in terms of how much time you can dedicate to working with different entities or different systems, you could say, even. So depending on how much time you have and how deep of a connection you want with a particular entity or entities, but certainly 2 doesn't seem to be overwhelming. I think that's quite reasonable. If you want to work with entities at all, even some people don't even specifically work with specific entities, but will encounter entities on occasion, and they will like, I don't dedicate myself to any particular entity, although I have had quite a few encounters with various different entities, and I have done work with them for temporary basis, but I haven't done I don't dedicate myself to any particular entity, not even Lucifer. Whether you want to think of Lucifer as a specific entity with the proper name Lucifer, such as the folkloric Lucifer that we find in pop culture and esoteric interpretations, or even mainstream interpretations of Christianity, or the Gnostic Lucifer, which is a Gnostic variant of that, which is tied to the serpent in Eden. Or if you look at Lucifer as a title of various different entities, which is my preferred. I think of it in both ways. that Lucifer is the proper name of an entity, as well as a title for any entity, whether mythological, non physical, or a physical entity, such as a real, historical, or currently living human being that has earned the right to that title. And the word Lucifer means light bearer or bringer of light. And I have identified the light bearer archetype as being essentially very similar. One of the most pure examples of the light bearer archetype in myth would be Prometheus. He stole the fire of the Olympian gods and gave it to humanity, taught them how to use fire, which made them more independent, less ignorant, and less weak, and less dependent, and less easy to control. And Zeus and the other Olympian gods, they didn't like that because they liked humans being subservient and dependent. And so Prometheus got punished for that. And so that is one of the more pure examples of the light bearer archetype. It is seeking out hidden or forbidden knowledge and sharing it with, especially with those who seek that knowledge out. And there's an element of risk involved, an element of personal risk involved in doing that, because there can sometimes be a backlash from the individuals that represent a power structure that was exploiting that ignorance and twisting knowledge and that sort of thing. And the truth coming out, knowledge being given, can undermine those systems of power, and those who are benefiting from those systems of power can create a backlash against those individuals. And you see this in history too, such as with Giordano Bruno, who was burned at the stake as a heretic for sharing information and knowledge, esoteric teachings, hermetic. He would translate hermetic texts and that sort of thing. Galileo Galilei, he dared to speak about the idea of the sun being the center of our solar system, and that the Earth and the other planets rotating around it, or orbiting it, I should say, that disagreed with the established doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church at the time, and sharing that knowledge with people undermined their power structure by causing doubt and that sort of thing. And so he was forced to retract it and that sort of thing. And he faced some punishment, and he could have experienced something way worse if he hadn't have actually retracted it. But the information was already out there. He helped spread that. And once the truth is out there, it can't be fully suppressed. Now, another mythological light bearer, a Lucifer, you could say, would have been Enki from the Sumerian, later called Ea in the Babylonian mythology. And he was a god. He was one of the main ruling gods, along with his brother Enlil and some others. But he gave humanity knowledge that would allow them to survive the various different natural disasters that were inflicted upon humanity by his brother Enlil, when Enlil decided that humans weren't useful anymore and he wanted to just wipe them out. And so Enki, who helped create the human species in that mythology, he didn't want to see the humans get destroyed or eradicated. And so he went behind the backs of the other gods and gave humans secret knowledge that they were able to utilize to survive these various different things. And he didn't have much of a backlash at all. Like the other gods didn't like it, but they couldn't do too much because Enki was so powerful. Now there's a real life light bearer, a historical light bearer that mirrors that sort of type of light bearer, you could say, and that would have been King Sejong. King Sejong from what is now called Korea, that area of the world. He was a king, and at the time, the common people, the masses of that land, were almost entirely illiterate, whereas the ruling class, they knew how to read and write, and they utilized Chinese writing systems, either in classical Chinese or an adapted form that they could write Korean using an adapted, borrowed Chinese characters, which I believe that they referred to as Hanja. And so King Sejong, he secretly developed this alphabet, that this set of characters that could be used to represent all the sounds used in the Korean language. And he released it. He did it in secret all by himself. And then he released it. And then once he had it to a point where he could share it, then he got a group of scholars. He has appointed a group of scholars to go in and kind of refine it even further. And then it was out there in the world, and people were learning it. The common people, the working class people, were learning this and becoming literate. And now very quickly they had a very high literacy rate because he designed it specifically to be easy to learn. And to this day, it's considered to be one of the easiest alphabets to learn in the world. And at times, that language had been suppressed. So they couldn't suppress it while he was king, because he was king, right? Which reminds me of Enki, where he was able to kind of do what he did without repercussions because of the power that he held. King Sejong didn't really get, he had people grumbling and stuff, but once he passed, his successor banned Hangul. That's the name of the alphabet, Hangul. And his successor banned it because the thing is, the ruling class didn't want the working class people to be literate, because when they were illiterate, they were easier to control. And so they tried to suppress it, and they didn't really work. They were able to make it illegal, but people still knew it, and they taught it to their kids and such, and other people in private and secretly sometimes. And that was those people who did that, who kept it alive during periods of time when it was suppressed or illegal, those people would be considered light bearers in my books as well. And so there were multiple periods in Korea's history where Hangul was suppressed. Anybody who came in and conquered kind of wanted to suppress that, including when Japan had taken over Korea. They made Hangul illegal as well, but you couldn't stop it. It was out there. People knew it already, and you couldn't stop it. So, and now it's considered a national treasure, the alphabet, the Hangul alphabet. So, yeah, and the thing is, you can be a light bearer, and it doesn't have to be that dramatic. You can be a light bearer in the lives of the people that you interact with. And I think that is very valid. That's where you have the most impact generally in the world. So being a Luciferian, to me, I believe the key to it is not so much working with an entity called Lucifer. I believe that the main aspect of being a Luciferian is seeking hidden and forbidden knowledge and sharing it with those who seek it in particular, to make it available to those looking for it. And that's what I've been doing with this public YouTube channel. And for people who want to delve even deeper into some of these things, I've created the Novus Ordo Luciferi, and I've tried to make it accessible. It's only $5 a month. And I don't believe that there are any esoteric orders out there right now that have as low of a membership dues as that. So I really wanted to try and make the information that I'm sharing with people and what I've gathered over the years and what I've been able to develop to be accessible. And that's about being true to being a Luciferian to me. Sometimes I compare it to heroism, where if you are truly acting heroically, it doesn't matter if you're worshiping or being inspired by heroes or not. It's whether you individually are acting in heroic ways. And I think that analogy applies to Luciferianism as well, where it doesn't matter. You may choose to work with an entity called Lucifer or other entities that have the Luciferian archetype. But the main thing is whether you are acting as a light bearer in this world. Let's see here. Boo says, work with multitudes of orchestras of pantheons if you want, or none at all. The world is yours. Yeah, I like that. Nomad Archer, welcome. Hi. I'm glad you were able to make it. Oh, some of the cool emojis there. Saved you a minute. Enoch. Enoch is an interesting character for sure. I was talking about this on the Luciferian Research Society Discord server within the last couple days. There's a book in the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Book of Giants, and that's one of these Enochian texts that was predated the work of John Dee and Edward Kelly, if you know about that. But yeah, the Enochian material is pretty interesting stuff. Wraith636 said, I'm definitely glad I found this channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if anybody wants to support this channel, we are open for super chats if you wanted to contribute financially. But if you want to contribute to this channel, one of the best things you could do is you could click the like button on this video and any other videos that you watch on my channel. That is probably one of the biggest ways that you can help spread this knowledge, make it more findable, I guess, to those who are looking for this type of thing. That's one of the biggest ones you can do. And it doesn't cost anything, just to click that like button. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up in a moment here, because we're going to have a private members meeting for the Novus Ordo Luciferi right after this closes, after we finish this live stream. And like I said, if you are interested in that and you wanted to jump in on that, then you can join the Novus Ordo Luciferi through the Patreon link that's in the description of this video. I believe it's right at the top of the description. Nomad Archer said pyramids. Yeah, that's a cool subject. One of the things I love about pyramids is the theory that they could be power generators, and people always end up throwing Tesla in on that discussion. Nikola Tesla, he's one of my favorites as well. Yeah, so I wanted to thank everybody who showed up tonight and participated in the live chat. I wanted to thank everybody who is watching this after the fact that didn't catch it live. I try and do these as often as I can, but if I did them every single night, I'd get burnt out. So I do take some evenings where I try and go to bed early and catch up on my sleep. But I like to try and do these live streams as often as I can, and I typically will follow it up with a private members meeting for the Novus Ordo Luciferi. Sometimes it's a casual discussion, and sometimes it's a more formal lesson that's recorded and added to the archive. Bagel Shark donated $2. Thank you so much. I love that owl looking emoji thing you got there. Is that an uwu or similar, something like that? Anyways, I love that. Thanks, Bagel Shark, for the support. And yeah, so Wraith 636 said thank you for this session. I will definitely be back to learn more. Yeah, so I usually do them in the evening, but I may randomly do some in the day. So if you subscribe to the channel, then you will get those notifications of when I do go live, especially if you click the notification bell. But you can always check them after the fact as well if you weren't able to catch them live too, because I always keep my archived live streams up on my channel. And I also try to take some clips from the live streams and edit them and post those as well as uploads, either shorts or longer form clips from the live streams. And sometimes I'll do dedicated uploads as well and dedicated shorts. But lately I haven't had as much time to do those. I tend to prefer to do live streams and then take clips from those that I find that I think that people would find interesting, so they don't have to kind of sit through the whole live stream if they're not interested in that. So yeah, again, thank you everybody for showing up this evening. Thank you, Bagel Shark, for that super chat. And everybody who is in the Novus Ordo Luciferi, we're going to start within a few minutes of me ending this live stream. So the link to that meeting is in the private Discord server, as well as the most recent post on the Patreon. And if you are in the $5 tier or above, then you will have that post unlocked. And we'll see you after that. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.